Hello, good evening, greetings and salutations. How the hell are you? I hope everything goes your way. My God, I hate saying stupid. I'm tired. You know, I made it back from Reno all the way to Crescent Valley. In my car that the third cylinder's missing on, I drove that bad boy all the way from there to here. One epic stretch of Fury Road. It wasn't that bad. I had some people pop up. And you know what, guys? Let me, you know what? I know what. Mechanics. There should be a mandatory ego death for mechanics in this country. Because automotive technicians and mechanics, they got the biggest egos you'll ever meet on this whole planet. You will be hard pressed to find a mechanic that does not have a big ass head on their shoulders. Like, relax, bro. A teenager can fix it. That's when you started, right? I bet you ain't learned that much since you've been a teenager, theory wise. Yet you got a big old ego on your shoulders. Ego. Completely ridiculous. Like deflate that thing before you kill everyone, because your head will get so big that there'll be a gravitational pull to it, and it'll eventually, and your mouth will open and become a black hole, and you will suck everyone and everything into your head, and it'll get even bigger and bigger. Bring it on down a notch, brother. Bring it on down a notch. I made that picture about that. I proved it. You go look at the comments. The first thing they do, they love it too. They're not doing it. Listen, they're not telling you something to be helpful. They doing it because it makes them feel superior, because of ego. Oh, unplug the fuel injector. Unplug the fuel injector. They don't have enough information to know what I know. And they didn't think to ask, because their ego knows it all. They didn't think to ask some details. I make videos largely for entertainment. All right? And try and share a few cool things and teach a few things. It's all lighthearted. And I swear, boy, don't, I mean, you got, they pop on there. Don't forget to unplug the fuel injector. I don't have to, bro. And you show your ignorance when you jump on there. Because for one, those of us who've been doing it long enough, we know some things. And one thing I know is that I don't believe it's a valve problem. It's probably the fuel injector. It's probably the fuel injector. See, that check engine light's been flashing since I left Crescent Valley to go to Reno. Surprise. Yet when I had the codes pulled after 400 mile trip one way, I didn't have an oxygen sensor code. I didn't smell the car running rich as if fuel was not being burned. I didn't see no smoke coming out of the pipe. You see, if you've ever had a cylinder that's not firing, but you have fuel injectors that are injecting fuel into that cylinder, you'll see a few symptoms. You'll smell your engine running rich, and you'll probably see a big old puff of white smoke coming out of your tailpipe. And when you go to read the codes, you'll get oxygen sensor codes for rich condition. Because the way an oxygen sensor works is it senses oxygen, or what's in the oxygen, to be more precise. Depending on the type of oxygen sensor you could have a zirconium one. You could have the other one that's more common. You could have a heated and a non-heated one. See, the non-heated ones require you to get the engine up to operating temperature, where the non-heated ones require you to do that so they'll read accurately. The heated ones, they help the oxygen sensor warm up a little bit faster. I believe it's the zirconium ones that are instantaneous, and they don't necessarily require a heating element. And they'll read regardless of cold or hot engine condition. So in the air that passes through the converter, which is the catalytic converter there, not the Cadillac converter, but the catalytic one, it acts as a filter for air. And if you're not getting a oxygen sensor code, even if your engine light's flashing, chances are there's not gas actually getting into the exhaust. So it's probably the fuel injector that's the problem, because you would smell it running rich as hell. Over 300 miles I drove, and I didn't smell anything. And when you start it up and drive it for about 5-10 minutes, you'd probably smell it, but you'd also probably get a big old puff of white smoke coming out of your tailpipe, and it would just keep on smoking the whole way down the road. See, people who just read the ASE books and maybe even pass the tests, but they don't have that kind of know-how, because that kind of know-how comes with experience. They do it for ego. They jump on the post and they'll all say the same thing. You didn't unplug the fuel injector. There's no reason to, because it's not injecting fuel. Regardless if that light is flashing on and off at me, there's no symptoms of rich condition. And there should by all means be some symptoms of a rich condition. It's that simple. See, the operating conditions, given how much fuel should have been dumped through there if the injector was in fact injecting, the car should have run rougher. Despite a misfire, the fuel, it would have started to try to adjust the fuel to air ratio on the other cylinders. It wouldn't have had the power to probably get up to 90 miles an hour like that, let alone sustain it without really any noticeable condition. See, you can't learn that kind of stuff if your ego says you already good enough. If your ego says you know everything, you can't learn all those kind of cool things. And with that said, I also pondered like twin flames. And I'm an observing type of person. And I noticed that in the twin flame community, you have two groups. One of those groups I refer to as the self-lovers, because they really only love themselves. And the other group I refer to as the other lovers, because they don't love themselves enough, but they love others a whole lot. And I don't think anybody else has figured this out yet, because I haven't heard anyone else mention it. But one of those groups is the divine masculine, and the other group is the divine feminine. Which one is which? Somebody with the tech specs will roll up and say, oh, it makes sense. The self-lovers are probably the divine masculine. And the other lovers are probably the divine feminine. I'm not too sure. I didn't get into memorizing all these trivial details. But that's it, funny thing, what I was talking about in other videos, I did see two very interesting things that I don't normally see on the road tonight in different miles and miles and miles apart. Well, one of those was a giant, like blown out 18-wheeler tire in the middle of the road, and it was dark. And if I didn't have supernatural eyes that can see in the blackness of night on the Nevada highways, I would have slammed right into that tire and probably would have broke something. Okay, so after that one, I came to turn on into the Bayawaway and Crescent Valley Road, and there's a mule deer, a dead one in the middle of the road. Wouldn't have seen that either if I didn't have these supernatural eyes that can see in the dark surprisingly well. Both of those things could have destroyed the remainder of this car. Going back to that, guys, listen, that car's old. And I've already mentioned this a few times. I don't feel, I can, that's what's so annoying, because I've gotten surety bonds before on a car in Alabama. It's what's so annoying, because I can. But I don't really want that car anymore. I don't really want that car, man. Like, I gave next to nothing for that car. I did some work on that car. My videos are out there. I don't care about that car. All right. I'm driving back here. I'm like, I wasn't worried because it runs so well at 90 despite whole cylinder gone on that 4-cylinder. And you're supposed to be able to, on a 4-cylinder, a small motor, if one cylinder goes out, you're supposed to be like, man, this thing sucks. But that one didn't. It kept on going. And like I mentioned, I can fix that tube. I can pop that. I can get the tube seal off. I could pull the head off, put the motor in time, pull the stuff apart. You don't usually have to do that. You just usually take the valve cover off, and they're all a little bit different, but there's usually a way you can remove that tube. So I could cut the tube with like a die grinder or something, and I could break the tube out of there, and then I could pop the socket right out of the hole. Right, there wouldn't be a hole then. The tube would be gone. I can fix it. I don't want to fix it. I'm done looking at that car. Sorry about the lighting. I have packed up all my stuff in that Sentra, and I was fully prepared to take a check today or cash, and we signed some paperwork. I was prepared for that, but I'm glad it fell apart to some degree, as I talked about in another video, because I like this spot. Someone else commented, and they're right. This spot is full of potential. This spot is absolutely full of potential. One day, how I come across this spot? I was driving down the road from Elko, and something in me said, don't stop for gas. Go to that gas station in Crescent Valley. And sure enough, I kept thinking, this is damn, I don't know if I can make it. I'm running out of gas. I should stop, but signs and wonders, right? Something in me just said, go to that gas station. And I went to the gas station right over there in the middle of town, and I got some gas. And then on the way back, I just happened to look out there at that building at that time, and I saw a for sale sign on it. Oh, hot damn. So I got out of I parked, walked up to it, and I was like, I'm going to at least look at it and check it out. And, yeah, sure enough, I called the number. The guy showed it to me. He opened up the little shack on it, and I went inside, and I didn't buy it for the building. At the time, I was like, that solves the water. I'm going to need some water, and I can get a water meter in the middle of town like that. I didn't realize at the time the water meter was going to be $5,500. I couldn't do it then. And it had a septic tank in the back. I was informed that I have to get it inspected or something. And I just don't feel like quizzing somebody on that and going, can you show me the law about that? I don't feel like doing that. I'm here one day, I'm gone the next. Doesn't matter if I say I want this is my home right here. It don't matter. None of this stuff. Something I've learned, guys, none of this stuff is under my control, right? Nobody has any control. It's the funniest thing. We're all getting our emotions, our urges, our compulsions, how we were raised, what we think we ought to do. It's all inside of us going on anytime something is prompted. From the time we wake up to go to the bathroom, to the time we get in our car, how we drive the car, all these things, to go into work, it's all pretty much decided. A very elaborate way, because people's genetics impact how they live a life. And as a result, many people are just like going along, and they don't ever notice that they really don't actually have choices. Even when prompted with a choice, you're going to choose a certain way, not because you thought about it, not because you use your intellect or logic to reason it, but because something inside of you compelled you to go that direction. It's an illusion, right? They call it the illusion of free will, right? People don't really realize this. They don't spend a lot of time meditating and observing themselves and watching and realizing, and being able to actually see the things and feel these little you have to be very sensitive to a lot of these feelings to realize you're being urged in a lot of ways. Then you have to contend with what kind of genetics do you have. And that's all cool to say it's somebody who doesn't actually have an issue with say physical genetics that make you that you're tired all the time just because that's how that works. And somebody who never really experiences extreme fatigue, where you basically crawling to get to the car. All right. And it doesn't matter how much sleep you get. Doesn't matter how little you sleep. It don't matter. Some people generally have that in their body. And no amount of I'm going to meditate, I'm going to focus, I'm going to work on that. No amount of that is going to change that. You're going to have to experience life in that body. All right. That's like saying that so if we look at like oh God, here we go. If we look at like, say, a model, let's put it that way. If we look at a model and then we look at a normal average person, right? No amount of, I believe I'm going to look like that one day just by continuing to exist, is going to turn you into a model, right? Unless somebody, we got all kinds of things now, but you guys get the example. Like we have we have a more inclusive idea of models and stuff now. But at one point in time, everybody can agree the reason we have that now, and the reason we have the idea that we should say beauty is in the beholder, and who is one person to put a standard of what a person should look like on everybody. Everybody looks a little different. There's a reason for that, because at one point, people did have a very rigid view of that, and it was like a belief, like any other kind of belief. They believed it. And that's how these ideas, like I just talked about, are described. They come to be. So at one point, You know, you had a model, and everybody realized the model is the definition of beauty and all that stuff. And if you weren't, and people looked at that and they thought, well, I don't look like that, so I can't be in that classification. No amount of sleeping or anything else of that nature, no amount of whatever it is could turn you into that reference point. And you know, it's a lot like that with a lot of things. You know, my family, people are genuinely we got a fatigue problem, man. It's like we got to take naps and stuff, and it doesn't really help. Doesn't really help. Doesn't really help. I forgot my original point. I hope I made one. I'm tired again. The point is people who are so like, they don't experience that whatsoever. All right? They don't have that little that stick in their side like that. You know, it's kind of like that. People are just, it's like this hat on my head, okay? I don't see it like this, but I can see, like, one time people wanted to, like, people who have not like the best hair genetics, right? They came up with the idea, put a hat on it because the rest of you probably looks really good. But it's kind of like that. No amount of wishful thinking and hoping and all of that is going to make those genetics turn on and my hair erupt from up there. Like all the men in my family, they got hair like this. You know, whatever hair, you know, it's okay though. That's physical stuff. But you know, I'm always tired. And then part of me gets we got lots of philosophers in my family, boy, thinkers. You gotta be, that's how you spend most of your day as a Caldwell. You sit there and think. Of course, we're philosophical. It's there and thinking, I say, well, what's the alternative? Go to a doctor. You know, in Alabama, I feel like you have to really look for a decent doctor who takes your symptoms serious. So you go into like a doctor and you're like, Doc, I'm having trouble going to work because I'm always tired. I feel like a lot of them look at you like, that's that old don't want to go to school bug. And anybody who knows who that is, that's when the doctor basically said, there's nothing wrong with you. Get on the damn school bus. And they really, at that point in time, they really didn't run tests and things, right? They just looked at, I just don't like school. Some people genuinely had problems. Thus, doctors got sued till the point now they want to test everything. All kinds of things happened because people weren't just going to take it. Sued people over genuine problems. Did all kinds of things. Lobbied the lawmakers about, you got to make sure you do things right. And then on top of that, even if I found some doctor who was willing to actually say, okay, come here, we're going to figure this out. Then I'd think, how unfair. I have to take medication so I can fit in some unnatural world. Like, why am I doing that? So I can be a productive economic unit? Like, suck my unit. How about that? You can suck my unit for economical unit of currency. How about that? And so it's the same thing. Like, if I have no doubt that if I decided to go start smoking cigarettes again, I could probably go through the day a lot happier. But then the happiness only comes about because I stimulated chemicals in here. Now that's bullshit too. Same thing with drinking. I just think it's ridiculous that I would have to do any of that stuff. I feel cheated. I can be perfectly honest here today. I feel cheated about that. Oh, let's be happy. You can tell somebody who don't know shit from Shinola when they tell you something like that. They don't actually understand the nature of the problem. They don't understand. Some people are predisposed to misery, and some people are predisposed to joy, and some people are just predisposed to be right there neutral in the middle. You know? It's just how it goes. But I got back here. I probably need to go to sleep. Very tired. Very tired. I wish I wasn't tired. You know, well, I got you here. Something I noticed driving from Crescent Valley to Bayawaway a lot, and a lot of stuff I noticed around here is there is some interesting energy around here. Like when you're intuitive, when you're very sensitive to energy, you get like what's described as pulsations or heart palpitations, but you get them all over your body. You get it right here in a lot of places driving through this place back towards the interstate. I get it in the same spots. And I'm just thinking, man, what is this energy that I am feeling in these same spots? I don't see anything. I know there's like minerals in the ground. But I lived on a mountain that was full of quartz, and you couldn't walk 5 feet without finding quartz or orthoclaws or all kinds of other rocks. It used to be similar around here. It was a mine in a place called Reese City, a place called the Crudup Mines, and I lived right in that area. And there's all kinds of spiritual activity. There's probably a lot of people died over the years in those mines before they closed them down. A lot of mining left Alabama. I don't know if I think environmental things happened. I don't think they actually went out of minerals. There might not have been enough minerals to continue. It might not have been profitable. Well, whatever, man. Place reminds me of Alabama back when there was still like a lot of jobs all around Alabama that were like logging used to be all over Alabama. Mining was in a lot of places. I remember like people just remind me of that, and now that's pretty much gone. There's still logging and stuff happening. I haven't looked up all the statistics, but I know the types of people around Alabama, the personalities changed. People found out that it's like really, it was at one point, it changed, where Alabama was like the cheapest place to live in America. And people moved there. They moved there. And before you know it, everything went up. They moved there because people who like it on easy mode, there's some personality traits there that explain why they want it on easy mode. I don't want to go into details. But I just real tired. Like, going back to what I just talked about, like the energy sensations and pulsations I get in my forehead driving through here. One of those spots is about like near that geothermal plant where you see those power lines going across the road and the power poles and everything. That can be explained due to the field around those things. They emit a lot of energies going through them wires. They emit a giant field. That could explain it. Also be other things like I've seen, and I haven't picked any up, but I've seen arrowheads out there in around that big piece of land that I own. What used to be like what I heard was the old lake bed, but I heard that in a rainy season when there's a little bit more, it's a dry one this year, but in one that's more moist, I hear that like that water gets 3 feet high over that whole area. And I kind of figured, water probably isn't that deep in that area. I would bet, I would speculate, and I might be wrong, but I feel like if you started digging, you'd hit water at about 30 feet right there, just due to how green the sagebrush is compared to anywhere else. That means it's thriving. It means it's doing that based off of water. That means it can access it. I know in that area, there's wildlife, like lots of rabbits, and I've seen some mule deers out there, and they're drinking water from somewhere. I don't see water anywhere. I mean, I could see the mule deers going up to the river to drink, even though that's like roughly 10 miles away. Still a pretty good walk for an animal. But the rabbits, I'm inclined to believe they know where water is, and they don't dig 100 feet under the ground. They probably right under the surface drinking out of little creeks and stuff that they found a few feet in the ground. And I thought about one day sitting out there and watching them rabbits with some binoculars and seeing where they go all day, because they're going to go to water at some point. And if I sat there for a few days, I would see they're not rabbits, they're hares, okay? They're before somebody says, it's a hare. Yeah, it's a hare. I'm called a rabbit, though, because they're the same in my book. They're biologically different. The hare is longer. Its legs are longer than a rabbit. And I get it. They're a little bit taller than a rabbit, too. I get it. There are rabbits out there running around. And I figured if I watched them for a few days, I bet you they go underground around the same bushes. You go to the bush that they're visiting most often every day. Go dig in, go dig in that hole, and I bet you water starts coming out of that hole. And I bet you it ain't that deep. And but I really feel like I'm supposed to go out there on that land and fast for as long as possible. I feel like the car braking today. I feel like all these things. I feel like it's a hint that I'm supposed to get rid of all these distractions. I'm starting to look at this phone less and less. This phone is a distraction. It's a huge distraction. And I just feel like oh yeah, the energy. Another spot that's away from the power lines is right after you get up to Beowawe. Excuse me if I'm not saying that right. It's that Alabama mouth I got. Beowawe. is right after you get over that bridge that goes over like the little river up there. Every time in these two spots, around those two spots. And like I said, I know there's minerals and all kinds of things, and certain minerals are like more like crystals, like quartz and whatnot, and they emit a field. And if you have some big ones and they're all in that area, the minerals will emit a giant field. If you're sensitive to that, you will feel it. And it could also be like I said, I saw some arrowheads out there around that area, and that means that a long time ago, probably some Indians, some indigenous folks up here, they obviously occupied this area, and those folks probably did a lot of really interesting spiritual rituals and festivities. And oh, I feel it. Oh, I said the words, and now the energy's rising. I can feel it. It started from my heart, and it moved up this side, going up. Oh boy, the spiritual energy is with us. I'm supposed to only have the Holy Spirit in here. I'm inclined to believe that's correct. And so some of those spiritual rituals, people, I don't know who occupied this area. All right. I'm going to tell you the truth, but I understand what a lot of spiritual rituals are about. A lot of them are about opening doors. We say it like that, but it's really connecting to what we cannot see or perceive with the physical senses unless we can wake up the spiritual senses. And then they will tie together, and your physical senses will have spiritual energy infused and merged in them. And then you can perceive things of an energetic or a spiritual variation. If you ask me how to do that, well, it gets revealed to me over time. I think one of my spiritual gifts that I have is like understanding and teaching and, doing stuff of that nature. And to do that, you got to have some intellect to understand, like understanding and stuff. Not that I'm the smartest, I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed. I'm not. If you ask me right now, I'll tell you, I am a stupid decision maker. I didn't make these decisions from a logical standpoint. I walked in the spirit. The road's here, and all kinds of new things triggered the fear, and with it came walking in the flesh. Spiritual thing, Rome wasn't built in a day. All right, it takes time. And it's like, okay, so you got growing pains, right? They hurt. You got wisdom teeth that come in. Those hurt. When you're growing up and you're going through puberty and all that, you got all kinds of hormones. Those kind of suck. All kinds of things, all right? And it's the same thing with spiritual growth. It can be painful. You can suffer it. Spirituality made suffering a bad word. Like, you're not spiritual enough if you're suffering. Hush. Suffering, we gonna experience suffering. Okay, if we didn't, oh boy, as much as I hate saying it, if we didn't experience when things go wrong, we would just we would be unaware forever. You come to awareness when things don't go right. They kind of jar you. That's how Buddha came to the conclusion life is suffering, because it jarred him, and what he saw would have been suffering if he had to live it. So he said, everybody's suffering. He didn't just come to that conclusion overnight. He knew it was unbearable what he looked at, but he had to do a little bit of stuff to say, this is suffering. And then he had to solve, how do you stop suffering if you're suffering? Well, for one, you realize it's in you. And that sucks for me to have to say sometimes. You know how like a woman gives birth? You know, there was a time, and it still hurts to this day, but there was a time before they gave the women painkillers, right? There was a time that looked like suffering. And when that's happening, we've all stumped our toes, although that is not anywhere in the same category as birth pains, labor pangs, whatever. But we know when it's hurting, and when we're suffering something to such a degree, we say some things we don't mean. We say some things that we don't mean. And we say some things that are just insane to say. All that. But a lot of spiritual rituals, doesn't matter if you are an indigenous person from America, doesn't matter if you're member of one of these Apache tribes, doesn't matter if you're a Cherokee or Chickasaw. You know, everybody in Alabama's got a little bit of Cherokee or Creek or Chickasaw in them. Everybody's got a little bit of that in us. But a lot of spiritual rituals, regardless if you're that or if you're in Golden Dawn in England, or if you're in the Catholic Church, or if you're in the Orthodox Church, it doesn't matter. Spiritual rituals are designed to connect us to the divine, to the spiritual element of existence and what lies beyond existence. It's like a door you open. And it wouldn't surprise me if right out there in that chunk of desert, it wouldn't surprise me if there weren't all kinds of really, really, really awesome and interesting spiritual rituals going on. It wouldn't shock me if a lot of people died in this area. Maybe, people used to die in mines. People used to die on construction yards. Some accidents still happen. But the reason that we have things like OSHA and all those things now is to try and prevent people from dying. But at one point, people did die on the job site, right? There's people in New York building those giant skyscrapers. They didn't have harnesses one time. People fell off of those things. And some didn't. And, so as I'm driving through that area, I just feel that pulsation right there. And I don't get out to investigate. I walked around the desert enough. I have seen what's out there. All right. There's some sagebrush. There's some rosemary plants. There's trees sparsely planted, There's other kinds of plant life out there. I think I've seen 5 different ones on the piece of land I had out there. It's just out there. But there's all kinds of stuff out here in this state that's just fascinating. And yeah, I think I'm going to go lay down. I'm very tired. Have a good night.